In 2019, Sam Altman had a clear path to tens of millions. President of Y Combinator, equity stakes in the next Airbnb, Stripe, and Coinbase, a platform printing money for everyone connected to it. He walked away from it for a research lab controlled by a nonprofit board, competing with Google and Facebook on research papers, not actual products. At the time, this looked like giving up one of the surest wealth creation machines in tech for an academic experiment. 6 years later, he runs the most valuable private company on the planet. And the story of how he got there reveals a pattern most people completely miss. Sam Altman is unusually good at attracting suspicion. Depending on who you ask, he's either a visionary trying to steer dangerous technology or a power maximizer using AI safety as cover. What almost none of those takes do is treat him as a deliberate strategist over a 15-year arc. Because there is a concrete, traceable story here. How a 20-something with a modest exit moved laterally into new roles again and again and again, roles that control distribution, capital, and eventually an entire AI supercycle. Whether you like the outcome or not, you can still learn from the method. Today, I'm walking through Altman's playbook in 3 parts: the path he chose, how influence actually compounds, and why he kept winning even when it looked like he shouldn't. Let's start with the path most people would have taken. The standard route to influence in Silicon Valley is simple. Get into a rocket ship early, a Stripe, Airbnb, Coinbase, etc., and ride it to a big exit. Then let your wealth and I was there credibility carry you into every important room. But Altman's path diverged from that script pretty early on. He co-founded Looped in 2005, went through Y Combinator himself, spent years grinding on a location-based social app, one that never hit escape velocity. In 2012, it was sold in acqui-hire for roughly $43 million, and after dilution and investor terms, his take-home was probably very modest. It was an okay outcome, but it wasn't a "you're now a tech billionaire" kind of outcome. So at that point, the obvious move would have been do it again. Start another company, knowing more and having more. But he didn't do that. Instead, he used part of the Loop proceeds to launch Hydrazine Capital, an early stage fund focused heavily on YC companies. He bought himself a position slightly up the stack. He was now allocating capital across many bets instead of concentrating everything on one. Then, in February 2014, Paul Graham asked him to become president of Y Combinator. Of course he said yes. But what was unconventional wasn't taking the role, it was how he used it. Most people would have treated YC as a prestige role. Show up, run the batches, give advice, collect the salary and the carry, but Altman treated it as infrastructure for something else. You can already see the pattern forming. Trade being an operator at one company for a platform position across many. Trade clean ownership for messy, leveraged influence. Trade near-term clarity for long-term flexibility. That pattern repeats. Altman's core bet is simple. Influence compounds differently than capital. Capital compounds through returns on financial assets. You put dollars into deals and hope to get more dollars out. Influence compounds through network effects. With access and the right platform, every interaction becomes a potential edge. Introductions, information flow, and leverage. YC was a perfect laboratory for this. Every batch, Altman met dozens of founders at the most malleable stage of their careers. He saw everything: raw pitch decks, dysfunctional founding teams, early flashes of product market fit. He had leverage over what they built, who they met, and how they thought about ambition and risk. Many of those companies disappeared, but some became Instacart, DoorDash, and Coinbase. And those founders remembered. Sam was the one who took them seriously, back when they were pitching half-finished slides in a conference room on Pioneer Way. Notice the selectivity. Altman didn't help everyone. He helped people who were building ambitious, building something, playing a long game, people who might be important later. From the outside, this just looks like generosity. From the inside, it's a very specific kind of leverage. People don't say, Sam helps me because he calculated I'd be useful. They say, Sam helped me when no one else would. Both things are true. The calculation doesn't diminish the value of the help. Each founder you help becomes someone who will allocate equity, attention, and introductions. Each company that works becomes a node in your personal distribution network. Most people treat networking as a social obligation. Altman treated YC as a compounding system. There's a second layer to how Altman builds influence that's easy to miss. He's comfortable being misread. In 2020, he wrote an essay called The Strength of Being Misunderstood. His argument was, the question isn't, how do I stop caring what people think? It's, whose opinions should I actually care about, and on what timeline? He wrote that the most impressive people he knows care deeply about what others think, but over a much longer time frame. They're willing to let, quote, the newspapers get it wrong, end quote, so long as, quote, the history books get it right, end quote. This creates something valuable for influence building. Room for interpretation. When Altman makes a move, different people can read different motives into it. His public statements on AI safety show enough concern to be taken seriously by researchers. They remain optimistic enough to keep building aggressively. Both accelerationists and safety advocates can find something to work with. Compare this to, say, Elon Musk, who tells you exactly what he thinks in real time, often emotionally. This creates clarity, which creates benefits of its own, but it also creates friction with flexibility. You can potentially predict him, potentially box him in, or oppose him. Altman doesn't give you that opening. The OpenAI decision in 2019 shows how all of this comes together. In December 2015, while still president of YC, Altman co-founded OpenAI. It was a nonprofit lab, starting with Elon Musk and several others. For over 3 years, he ran both YC and OpenAI at the same time. Then, eventually, YC's leadership told him he had to pick one. He chose OpenAI, the weird research lab, the one competing with DeepMind and Google Brain on papers and not on products. That same month, OpenAI created a new structure, a capped profit entity. Investors got returns, but only up to a set limit, and the nonprofit board keeps final say. This let them raise serious capital while nominally preserving the original mission. In July 2019, OpenAI announced a billion-dollar partnership with Microsoft. Here's what made this bet different. Altman recognized AI was going to be genuinely transformative within 3 to 5 years. The path to influence wasn't gradual academic research. It was building something people could touch, and getting in early would matter more than being right about any specific technical bet. The transformation from pure research lab to product company, ChatGPT in November 2022, GPT-4 in March 2023. These were Altman moves, pragmatic and commercial. They made OpenAI matter in a way that pure research never could. Then came the real test. The November 2023 board fight. When the board ousted him, he didn't immediately go public with a detailed counter-narrative. He could have, but he chose not to. Instead, he let employees, Microsoft, and other stakeholders make the case for him. Hundreds of employees threatened to walk. Microsoft made it clear that the partnership was with Altman as much as the corporate shell. The board surrendered quickly. The network he'd built over 15 years was strong enough that the company couldn't function without him. So what's the actual pattern across 15 years? Altman never chased the obvious next step. After Looped, he didn't do what most founders do: start another company with better odds. He moved up the stack to deploy capital across many bets. After becoming YC president, he didn't do what most people would do: stay at the top of the mountain and compound the position he'd earned. He took on a second organization that looked like a downgrade. Each time, he traded a clear ownership stake for a messier position that controlled flows: deal flow, talent flow, research flow. He positioned himself where things moved through him, not where he just owned a fixed piece. He helped people strategically, not everyone, but ambitious people playing long games. He built a network that would show up for him when it mattered. And he let people misread him in the short term because he was optimizing for a different time scale entirely. Most people, when they have a modest win, try to roll into a bigger version of the same game. Altman switched games. He chose to play for influence first, trusting that if he controlled enough of the system, the money would follow. He was right. If this breakdown was useful, subscribe here on YouTube and to my newsletter, link below. I do deep dives on how specific people built leverage in tech, AI, and media, and more, tracing their actual moves rather than the mythology. Because they got lucky is never the full story, and the real playbook is usually hiding in the choices that looked wrong at the time. Thanks for watching.